Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. Was that a good radio voice? Did I nail it?
That's not bad. Yeah,
No?
you
Okay.
have a nice cadence there going on.
Oh my
We just
God.
need a little. We need some backsplash music or
I
something,
think you're
kind of.
right. Yeah. No, the allergies are so. I mean, like the pollen in the air in Georgia right now is so bad. It's just like
Uh,
it's my throat is so hoarse. It's ridiculous.
so it wasn't due to improv or acting or anything. It was because of nature.
Maybe a little bit of that. I had a 12-hour day yesterday.
Mhm.
So I did a play on Valentine's where we live streamed it, but we had some technical issues and the audio wasn't where we needed it to be. And so we thought, hey, let's re-record it, but let's actually pre-record it so we can make sure our audio is of a better quality. And then we'll edit together and we can add in a couple of shots here and there and make it like a little hour-long play movie, right?
Mhm.
Anthology thing.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
me and all of my theater buddies were doing that all day yesterday. So I'm probably kind of hoarse from that as well.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
So a lot of conversing and stuff.
oh yeah, but I going out to the car today, like to go pick up some. I had to run a couple of errands. It was like green. The whole thing was green from pollen. It was ugh. Spring is the worst in Georgia.
Well, that's perfect because for doing a live stream, it sounds like you went through the gauntlet just to do that opening
Oh yeah, no,
bit.
exactly.
Yeah,
My
so
my voice
sounds
is
good.
properly
It's well
damaged.
trained.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. It's
well trained.
okay.
It's been through, it's seasoned. It has a
Yeah,
seasoned texture to it,
absolutely.
and texture is really part of it now with the hoarseness. So that's
Oh
good.
yeah, no, it is. Texture's a better word. Yeah, I'm not damaging my vocal cords. I'm adding texture.
Um,
Well, in any case, okay. So we have to do a live stream at some point. I feel like
yeah, I
here.
guess so. I guess I'll go to share screen. Let's see here, and I assume everything's all good. Yes, you were
There we go.
ahead of the
I see your
class.
screen. Indeed.
They added the boring icons, everything. Okay, here we go. So for today, I was thinking about you and I talking about Tinsel,
Mm-hmm.
Calamity Jane's sidekick, inherited from Leon.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've talked about this in our own, in our off-stream meetings, just between us, a lot. Tinsel's a pretty big character in this world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know you have the injured slash raspy voice. If you want to add some backstory to Tinsel, uh, by all means, go for it, or I can do it, or however you want to do this, Eric.
Well, I think for me, when I was working on the original script, there's a lot of influences. Tinsel is a blend of a lot of things, but one of the ones that always comes to my mind, and I don't know that it comes to your mind because this was definitely something that was more about my own personal tastes in television. But do you remember the TV show The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.?
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, and Briscoe had his pet horse, whose name, of course, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, which is like undermines how important the show was to me. But it introduced me to, of all things, Bruce Campbell, of course, who
Mm-hmm.
is I love.
Yep.
But amongst that, though, was his horse that he spoke to all the time. And I'm going to look it up right now because it's
I
driving
am
me.
doing it now for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just on my phone right now trying to look it up.
It's Comet. Um,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
comment.
I kept saying Rocket, and I'm like, that's close, but it's not
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's
The
yeah, so
spirit is there.
yeah. So Comet, he always spoke to Comet like it was a character, and Comet also spoke back to him. But unlike Luke Skywalker and R2D2, where you always got kind of the sense that Luke was sort of just guessing at whatever R2 was saying, you
Mhm.
always got the sense with Briscoe County Jr. that like they actually were like communicating, like
Mhm.
they actually could talk to each other, and that kind of non-human sidekick for a protagonist kind of always stuck with me. And
Mhm.
when we started working on the Leon Chameleon as the original character, who very much was sort of that Western flavor cowboy,
Mhm.
Comet immediately came to mind. Um, and that was sort of the starting point, but I didn't want to do a horse. Everybody does a horse in a Western, right? And we draw a lot of themes from the Western genre, but we're not, I mean, honestly, Calamity Jane's not really a Western. And so I didn't want to just do another horse. But then I think that's when we started talking, and you mentioned the DC character Lobo, who has a very iconic motorcycle that he rides on, which has a skull on the front of the vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is a space motorcycle, whatever that means, that he flies around through space. And it's sort of the conversation between Comet and Lobo. It's sort of turned into this motorcycle that Leon rode around on, and because he was going to be a loner character, he could speak to the motorcycle and get some exchanges, which would give us an opportunity for him to externalize some of his thoughts, which is something you really need to do when you're doing film television, because people can't read the characters' minds on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tinsel was kind of born from that, and then the Tinsel name obviously comes from Silver, the Lone Ranger's horse. So there was a lot of inspiration points that came together that ultimately acted as the foundation for Tinsel, right? So you've got the skull head, you've got the sort of almost anthropomorphized relationship that Calamity has with Tinsel, the name from Silver. So as with all things in Calamity Jane, like it's a love letter to the things that we love, right? And we take these ideas that have inspired us and have driven us creatively and made it our own and combined it into something a little bit different and a little bit new.
Mm-hmm. I do recall to our ones to tens of 10 viewers, we did talk about. I do remember this a little bit. We did talk about Tinsel in a stream once because I brought up Ghost Rider and his bike.
Yeah, Danny Ghost Rider.
Danny Ketch Ghost Rider version 2, I guess, is what he I don't know what his official title is in the Marvel Universe, but Danny Ketch Ghost Rider's bike had that front plate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to emulate that.
You're right. It was a little bit more abstract though. It looked sort of like a shield that implied the silhouette of a skull.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. It wasn't literal, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember we talked about it a little bit in the stream before. So
right.
It's sort of recapping this, but for some reason, Tinsel's been on my mind for Calamity Jane again.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I was in the bar last week with Clem, but today I wanted to kind of I don't know what it is. I just wanted to change up a little bit for this week. We'll go back to Clem probably next week and stuff like that. I mean, the thing is I think in my brain, Clem is kind of solved as far as the character. And again, he doesn't have that big of a role. He has a couple of shots here and there. So now it's back to Tinsel because again, she's the we did this too, I think, on the stream too. We established that Tinsel's a girl.
Yeah. It absolutely. Calamity, in as much as she addresses Tinsel, she'll call her a her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But and I think another thing that we discussed briefly is like the skull, though reminiscent of the iconic skull heads that you see bleached out in the desert of every Western movie. It's not a cow head. This is a different creature, obviously given the size of the skull, and it's intended to evoke again, sort of imply subtly that this is a different world, right? Mm-hmm. To make it not of Earth, like Dry Gulp Gorge is not on Earth, so Tinsel would not have a cow skull on the front of the bike, right? It just wouldn't make any sense.
It makes me. How far do we want to go down the rabbit hole of talking about what Tinsel is and what do we want to?
Well, I mean, I think we should play a little bit coy.
Sure. Is it safe to say? I mean, because again, some of this is old news. Obviously, for us, it's old news. But is it safe to go down the road of saying, is Tinsel a one of a kind, or is Tinsel part? And I'll let you. I'll hand the baton back to you, Eric. You
Okay.
can you can decide to answer that. Um, is Tinsel one of a kind, or do you
Hmm.
feel like you want to answer that?
I think we should let the mystery play out there,
Okay.
because
All
what
right.
what it'll what it'll do is, like, if we decide to go in one direction or another, like, we can do, the Tinsel goes on a date episode.
That's where I think we're going into jump the shark territory.
That's when we've
Personally,
hit. Yeah, that's season
yeah,
12, and we've completely
yeah,
run out of ideas. And it's Tinsel
yeah,
goes on a date is the name of the episode. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, okay. So we won't establish that. Okay, here's one. Let me
Okay.
ask. Okay, now this one I don't think I posed to you. Is Tinsel, when we look at this, we see his cow skull or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, alien cow skull, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it.
Alien cow skull is perfectly
Yes.
adequate. Yes.
Is Tinsel an apparition or is Tinsel alive?
I think I also want to play coy with that.
Okay.
I like the idea of it being a little bit mysterious.
Because we're using the classic iconography of a skull implying
Right.
death, right?
Right.
But again, Tinsel and Calamity start to form a bond. I mean, obviously Tinsel has biases towards Leon, I'm assuming, because they were riding together for
Sure.
years.
Sure.
But as the secondary owner that Calamity is, Tinsel's now stuck with her and dealing with stuff, trying to learn her, learn what her way of communicating, stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think
uh,
that there is going to be an opportunity, right? I mean, for that kind of exploration, because Tinsel had been writing with Leon since even before Calamity entered into the scene.
mhm,
Um, and so there's a history between those two characters that we don't get to see, because episode one opens with the ending of Leon's tale, such that it is.
yeah, hmm,
And it's the beginning of a new journey with Tinsel and Calamity. And if I were forced to say, I guess I would say that in as much as Tinsel is a sentient being and not a projection, she has an affection for Calamity as almost like an aunt, right?
hmm,
And
okay,
so there is a pre-installed desire to support Calamity. But by the same token, there is the nature of the relationship, the dynamic of the relationship has changed with the death of Leon at the top of the episode, right? And so it's something that I want to explore. And we hint at it a little bit at the end of the pilot episode when Calamity discovers something about Tinsel that she didn't know beforehand.
hmm, hmm,
And
hmm,
Tinsel will have more secrets that we'll learn about over time, over the course of the episodes. But whether or not Tinsel is actually alive, is actually an entity, right? I'd like to play coy with that, and I think that goes back more to Briscoe County Jr., where you really got the sense that Comet was sentient, right? Because of the nature of how Briscoe interacted with the horse, but they
hmm.
never explicitly define the idea that Comet is like a sentient being, sort of like, well, if you've seen the sequel to Jumanji with The Rock, which they're pretty fun popcorn flicks actually. Like, I was
Huh.
surprised at how much I like them actually.
Oh, really? I mean, okay. So here's the thing. Like, I saw the Robin Williams one way back when it was in
Yeah,
theaters. I enjoyed it, but it was enough for me to ever want to see sequel to it again.
yeah. The sequels,
Dwayne
and
the
they
Rock.
they are sequels. Like, you find that out.
Oh,
They
they are.
are actual sequels. Yeah, like, they are distantly in the future sequels, but they are unequivocally sequels to that first movie.
Okay. Um, so Dwayne the Rock Johnson, to me, I mean, I can watch a he carries the film for me. I
Oh
enjoy,
yeah,
again,
yeah.
the popcorn flick aspect of it. I think he's pretty fun pretty fun to watch. Check your brain out of the door. Um, but it felt like they how many they made now? Two. They
Two,
had
just the
Kevin Hart.
two. Yeah, Kevin Hart,
Is
he's
Kevin Hart there in
great.
both of them too?
Yeah, so Jack
Yeah.
Black, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and The Rock were back in all three of them, or in
Okay.
all three of them, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really great cast. They have a really strong chemistry together. Um, and yeah, it's quite good. Yeah. The
Yeah.
sequel adds Aquafina and Danny DeVito and Danny Glover
Mm-hmm.
to the cast. But again, Danny DeVito and Danny Glover are a much smaller role because they're in the real world versus in the Jumanji world. But in any case, that's a whole other conversation. I was just bringing up the second movie because there's a horse character who is explicitly sentient, and they
Mm-hmm.
define that and explain that, and there's a reason for it. But I don't want to be that explicit. I want to be more coy, the way that Briscoe County Jr. was coy with Comet's relationship to Briscoe.
Um, so sometimes it seems, and I think this is just, human nature, but whenever there's a character that's a sidekick that doesn't talk, more often than not, they resort to using a dog vessel to pretty much imply that this is a really friendly being and has dog qualities. But dogs are dogs. For me, and I'm being really snobby slash I guess picky, but in Disney movies or whatever, you'll typically see some non-talking character like a dragon, for example, and all of a sudden they just become a dog. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's not. Why can't it just be a friendly dragon and have its own behaviors and stuff like that?
Yeah,
This
for
made me think
sure.
of that. Now, whether you as a writer have an idea of how Tinsel is, and we haven't got to that point to where we can establish the
Well,
personality trait of Tinsel is. But to me, I guess I'm projecting. I think Tinsel is more like he's not a dog.
no,
Um,
Tinsel's not a pet. Like I don't
yeah,
I don't write any scene that Tinsel's in like Tinsel is a pet.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Tinsel is absolutely a companion to Calamity, but she's not dependent on Calamity,
Mm-hmm,
um, like the same way a pet is. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
I don't know why I enunciated pet so much there, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's just kind of a key that I want to think about with
Well, I mean, I think
Tinsel
it's the
on my
difference.
side.
It's the difference between Roach in The Witcher
Mm-hmm,
and Comet in Briscoe County. Like
mm-hmm,
Roach is a pet. Geralt treats Roach. I mean, like Geralt talks to Roach. Geralt interacts with Roach,
mm-hmm.
but he very much treats Roach like a pet.
Right.
Briscoe does not treat Comet like a pet whatsoever. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
Comet will protest. Comet will um, be strident and stubborn, and Briscoe has to deal with that and can't override what Comet wants. So
mm-hmm.
it's very much a different dynamic.
Yeah. Um,
So I see that you're working in 3D now.
yeah, I'm jumping back and forth now. My 3D is going to be terrible. You know, like I wish it's funny because I wish I could like what we were just doing when we were talking. Like first of all, it doesn't require like I can kind of almost check out, just draw this. Like not to brag, but my brain's just used to drawing.
Mm-hmm.
But where like so it's easy to conversate and not think about stuff as much. But as soon as I jump into 3D, then also my brain, like all of a sudden, like my four cores of processing power are going off and trying to go, okay, do I want to do this and that? And then I'm trying to think also about Tinsel's personality at the same time and
Mm-hmm.
conversing about it. It's just interesting. Um, Question a long-winded way. Yes, I'm in 3D space. I want to start playing around with Tinsel and blocking out
Mm-hmm.
her body in 3D
Mm-hmm.
space
Mm-hmm.
because again, as we've touched on before, she's not a background, so she's not gonna. She technically falls into the 2D space where I can just hand draw her, but I don't want to because
Mm-hmm.
she's so mechanically structured. I don't want to keep drawing all these different poses and all these kind of different views of her
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again, and just keep relying on them. I'd rather just have her built in 3D, and then I'll play with the lighting and just make sure she looks consistent enough to be with Calamity in all the shots. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, I want to have her 3D. Um, yeah. Um, so that's where I'm at with that. But yeah, I'm kind of I made her body in a general sense, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
making her skull face a little bit here. I'm starting with it. But yeah. Uh,
Hmm. Well, hopefully people are receiving us. YouTube is telling me that it's experiencing some streaming errors and saying the stream status is poor.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, I don't know. This is literally the first time that has ever happened um,
Oh, that's weird.
on our show. So I don't know. Hopefully people are still receiving us, and it's just a red herring warning. But I don't know.
Well,
There.
I mean, I'm not too worried because I don't think we ever really have any. We how many viewers we get? Like ones to twos of viewers, or one of them's a bot usually. I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't be too worried about it. But
Well, the warning went away, so hopefully the status quo is being returned. So,
okay, all right. So that's
but
good.
yeah, I might have to like run a length of Ethernet to my laptop because I've been getting weird, just signal loss. Like my laptop just spontaneously loses connection to my modem, and I don't know if it's a modem problem or a computer problem. Honestly.
So on our side, when we do our FaceTime, I mean our Zoom calls, whatever, I haven't seen any hiccups for a long time. Like I know
Yeah.
you've moved, and so you've
Yeah.
settled in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
interesting now.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, I've been in my current place since last December, so I've been here
Hmm.
for a while at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, our audience is saying that he didn't notice anything wrong with the stream, so that's good to know. I'm glad to hear
Thank
it.
Thanks, audience. We're gonna
Thanks. Yes.
call. We're gonna call. Yeah. Thank you, audience. At this point.
Yeah. Thank you, audience. Yes. It's like an improv show. We've got audience participation.
Yeah. Let's see here.
But yeah, but I don't know. I Tinsel's a character that I like a lot. Uh, Not just from the standpoint of it gives Calamity an opportunity to vocalize some of her inner thoughts, but it gives her a sane companion. So many of the characters that Calamity interacts with over the course of the show, whether they're villains, rivals, or partners, are broken in hopefully funny and entertaining ways, right?
hmm hmm
But having Tinsel provide a modicum of consistent, for lack of a better word, sane support for Calamity, I think is valuable, right?
hmm hmm
Um, because again, Calamity's been thrust into this hero role before she was ready for it, and I don't know, because you start stories, or at least you should start stories at the point where it needs to start and no sooner.
hmm
She is ready, right? And everything happens for a reason, and she has to take that final journey on her own, right?
hmm
But nonetheless, Calamity feels like it was too soon for her, right?
hmm hmm
And so having Tinsel with her, who is a seasoned adventurer like Leon was,
hmm
in a way, is having a bit of a mentor, or at the very least a guide
hmm
that can come along on the journey with her.
What's funny about Tinsel is, yeah, I mean, Tinsel's probably extremely wise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she knows a lot of the world, but she can only communicate. She can only communicate through rooms, pretty much, right?
Right. Right.
Her
Right.
primary suggest way of suggesting things to Calamity and communicating with her. So Calamity's the one that has to actually kind of learn her rooms and the idiosyncrasies that come with it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel that Calamity's been traveling with Leon and Tinsel long enough that
That's true.
she probably speaks Tinsel's language
Mm-hmm.
such that it is well enough. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not the same relationship that, and nor should it be. But it's not the same relationship that Leon had with
Mm-hmm.
Tinsel for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I just want to I find this really interesting.
Yeah.
You see this a lot in drawing technique. There's some school of thought that you start with the most basic geometric shapes in 2D drawing,
Mm-hmm.
squares, rhombus, you know,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
rectangles, and then you just fill in the details once you've established the basic geometric shapes. And I see that you're actually doing that right
Yeah.
now in 3D, but instead of a circle, it's a cylinder. Instead of a rhombus, it's a trapezoidal. I don't know what that's actually called.
This was a cube, and I've as we're talking,
Yeah,
I did shrink down one of the planes to kind of
right.
give me the general shape that I want to do. That my goal is to do with her later on. Like again, what's frustrating is like, okay, so I drew this in like a few minutes, whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
during our stream. Streams, half hour, and I got this done with the first third of our stream. So I mean, it's gonna take a while for me to get to that point and draw the same way in Blender. but I'm already doing the. But this is exactly what I used to do back in art school. Is you do everything. You reduce life into simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
You classify it, with as an object first, some sort of a shape that you can draw easily, and then yes, you perceptive in seeing that we just kind of whittle it down and we sculpt it
Mm-hmm.
up. Just like with clay, you kind of just there and you whittle away and you take away stuff. It's the exact same process creatively.
Was it Michelangelo that said that the sculpture was already in the marble? You just had to remove the parts that weren't a part of the
Yeah.
sculpture.
Oh, I don't know if that's a quote, but
I'm
in fact,
paraphrasing, obviously, I
yeah,
think, but yeah, like it was something along those lines.
that's cool. Yeah, but that is that's exactly what that's exactly the right terminology, though, for sure. Um, yeah. But
Um,
yeah, you can. But I mean, the one thing is that I'm happy with is we can already kind of get a sense of uh, of the general shape I want to do, what I want to get with her,
hmm
and figure out. There's some other things I'd like to do, but again, we could say. I mean, I know we're running out of time, so, but eventually, like there's just some things I want to kind of play with. We could do that next week, maybe.
more grist for the mill. Like don't give it away all for free. Make him come back.
Yeah, but like there's some shapes I want to do here where I want to taper the shape a little bit. And,
hmm
yeah, but we'll save that for later. But yeah, the general feeling we went from a drawing that you can kind of tell what's going on to a bunch of blocks. But
Well,
okay,
I mean, something to keep in mind too. Um, when I worked in the games industry, one of the ways that we would employ concept artists is for quick explorations, quick studies,
hmm
because it is easier to experiment and grab thumbnails in 2D than it is in 3D. 3D is it's the creation project process is a little bit longer.
yeah,
Um, and that's not to say, I mean, I've seen some 3D artists work miracles,
yeah, yeah,
but generally speaking, you use concept artists for a variety of reasons. For really, really detailed inspiration pieces to really get a strong sense of what your world is going to look like.
yeah.
Quick silhouette examples, character exploration studies, right?
hmm
And yeah, and you do that all in 2D because you can iterate more rapidly in 2D.
yeah,
So
yeah. And maybe someday, whenever if we ever get a budget, we can hire a team of really talented 3D artists
there you
to
go.
help.
To do everything. And then we just sit back
Put
and
it,
smoke
yeah,
our cigars and let the cash roll
yeah,
in.
and push the easy button from Staples. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, on that note, it's about 30 minutes, so we can start wrapping up. Thanks for tuning
Okay.
in, everybody. As always, you can head to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you to our Patreon site where you can subscribe and get all of our updates as we post them. We're on YouTube and Facebook, which presumably is where you're watching this in the first place. And otherwise, have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Good night, all.